and in the morning I'ma rise for it. Heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it, peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it. Work for it, ride for it, I'ma organize for it. Stay up in the night and in the morning I'ma rise for it. Heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it, peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it.
Hey, peace. Thanks for tuning in to the Money, Power, Land, Solidarity podcast. Lately, I've been asking myself a lot of basic, fundamental questions about my politics. What are my goals? Asking basic questions about how I'm spending my time and my energy. Why do I go to these Upper Harbor Terminal meetings, and what do I hope to accomplish by attending? What are the real changes we need to see in our government, in our economy, in our city, in order for our families to be safe, to be healthy, and free of oppression? How can we realistically achieve those changes? I stopped to ask myself if it's necessary or if it's wise to go through the channels of engagement established by the city and the ruling class power brokers. Or is it necessary and wise to steer clear of those sanctioned channels? Or is it necessary to do both? Honestly, going through these official processes seems like a send-off. The sanctioned feedback channels and so-called democratic community engagement are designed to protect the system from change, and they rest on conservative assumptions and frameworks. This power structure has proven itself incapable and illegitimate. The relationships to wealth and to public power are so nakedly violent, so wrong, so oppressive, that dignifying them with participation seems to serve to reify them, give them momentum and legitimacy they don't deserve and I don't think really have in the broader populace. How can we use direct action and social movement pressure to make different decisions with land ownership, public investment, and land use like the Upper Harbor Terminal project? How do we engage on all the necessary fronts and build all the necessary skills we need to implement a new governing order? There are moments in our daily life when the state and power and property relationships make their presence felt. Police violence is one vicious manifestation of oppression. Development deals like the Upper Harbor Terminal are another. Visits or non-visits to the doctor another. These are discrete happenings where we can see who wins and who loses in our current political economy. A revolutionary movement must confront and overcome oppression at all of these registers. Be able to exert our power over police in the streets and over billionaire developers in city hall chambers. I really want things to change, so I'm going back to simple questions. Can the city government, by that I mean the mayorship, the city council, the appointments and hires available to both, can the city government be used as a tool to redistribute wealth downward rather than upward? Can the city government be used to limit the repressive power of the state by defunding the police, breaking down the police force's arsenal and their budgets, creating challenges for them rather than legal immunity? Can the city government use its power to intervene against rent seekers and privatizers in favor of the poor, the houseless, the indebted, etc.? Are we serious to focus on the city government? What about state power at the level of county and the state? What about the federal level? more questions. Beyond taking power in the city government, what other avenues do we have as a movement for asserting our power, for impacting our surroundings? What other modes of organizing and action do we have in our arsenal? We have direct action in the form of protest, rally, the reappropriation of wealth and of goods and of property. We have uprising. We have economic blockade. We have eviction defense. We have court support. We have direct action in the form of labor strike, in the form of rent strike, in the form of a debt strike. We have direct action in the form of building durable power through organization, labor unions, tenant unions, mutual aid projects, community defense units, political parties and alliances and coalitions. We have the direct action of cooperative economic activity, building co-ops, worker-run enterprises, mutual funds, community farms, etc. We have the direct action of cultural work, creating bonds of solidarity and connection, mutual understanding and camaraderie through art, music, food, sport, stories, and fashion that affirm a revolutionary, egalitarian ethic of mutual power, mutual work, and liberation. How do we build a movement that connects initiatives, building and exercising power on all of these fronts under some common vision, with common goals? A movement full of thriving projects that are coordinated in a way that can exercise power in an organized fashion and change society. One framework for forming a strategy is dual power. Dual power holds that a social movement must build autonomous power outside of the state apparatus. We're talking about those community organizations, labor unions, cooperatives, self-defense groups, etc., that can meet our needs, that can produce and distribute food, can provide health care and child care and entertainment and information, can provide safety and community accountability in a way that's not dependent upon the state or ruling class, and in a way that can resist the hostile efforts of the state and the ruling class. That autonomous working class power is one pillar of a dual power formation. The other pillar is competing for and exercising state power, building independent political organizations that can win ballot lines, that can get elected, that can make appointments, and will exercise power in a way that contributes to the revolutionary project, to the redistribution of wealth to the poor, and the reordering of our political economy away from private profit and white supremacy towards communal wealth and racial justice. The Malcolm X grassroots movement, in their long-term engagement in the South, expressed two principal reasons why we must compete for state power. They are: one, to limit the repressive powers of the state, and two, to expand the commons. That means create public housing projects and municipal energy systems, municipal internet systems, generally building the public sector and using the state to invest in a cooperative socialist economy. The vehicle used by the Malcolm X grassroots movement to coordinate between the two pillars of their dual power strategy is a people's assembly. This is a participatory democratic meeting where the organizers and neighbors and workers who are building the solidarity economy and the autonomous working class power structure nominate elected leaders from their ranks to run for strategic office. The People's Assembly directs the legislative work of the people they elect towards the vision of the assembly. A key point for the organizers in Mississippi was to explicitly reject both corporate parties and run on independent working class organization. I think this is a crucial strategic principle. more questions. Is this a strategic line for us to follow in Minneapolis? Can we imagine winning revolutionary transformations in this way? Can we commit to a course of action and expect to bring about radical economic and social changes following this schema? Are there better ways to produce the changes that we need? And where does insurrection fit into our strategies? What does a serious dual power strategy look like in Minneapolis? How can the Upper Harbor Terminal redevelopment and contesting developments in general be used to build and enact working class power? I wanted to bring some of these considerations to bear on the Upper Harbor Terminal. In this example, we see that the state, the mayor and the city council, we're talking about both the administrations of Betsy Hodges and Jacob Fry, as well as Barb Johnson and Philippe Cunningham, have generally worked to facilitate the will of the developer, ceded exclusive rights to United Properties, and has coordinated with the developer and the McKnight Foundation to push the development over community objection. The mayor's administration has been particularly aggressive about pushing the Upper Harbor Terminal. They elevated the Upper Harbor Terminal to the city's #1 priority request for state bonding money. Jacob Fry has appeared in the media to advocate for the development, and he has assigned senior advisor Sean Pierce to the process. If there were socialist elected officials in these seats, elected by this popular political organization building a dual power movement, we could potentially imagine the state playing a different role. The council member could have rejected the notion that this development should be privatized, could have embraced the community organizing efforts challenging the development, and could have voted against the concept plan. A socialist mayor with a dual power base could politicize these projects and push to tax billionaire developers like United Properties rather than collaborate. A socialist mayor could use their platform and power to pursue socialist developments. Perhaps we could be talking about a world-class publicly owned venue like Red Rocks, or we could be talking about beautiful social housing that could be a model for a national public housing resurgence. You could stretch and imagine that both a socialist mayor and city council were in power. Maybe we won a few other city council seats as well, and now you really start cooking with gas. But only if there's another pole of political power. A popular movement on the ground that gives power to these electeds and who they are accountable to. Even the best champions for justice are fighting an uphill battle in elected office, and real change is driven by the organized action of masses of people in the streets. There was some impressive organizing done over the years attempting to stop United Properties' Upper Harbor Terminal plan. Periods of strong unity and coalition like the winter of 2017 and 2018 that forced a delay in the original city council vote. But the hostility of the city, the undermining by foundations and consultants, and the lack of political organization meant that unity couldn't sustain itself. There are still shoot-offs of that moment organizing, and more generally, the movement ecosystem is growing stronger with mutual aid projects, community defense formations, labor unions, tenant organizations, and a plethora of creative, dynamic initiatives, people really getting busy. Could we organize ourselves to compete against the Democrats in a principled and effective way to win in the 2021 municipal elections? Could we coalesce around some broad socialist policy frameworks? Could we compete to win for positions of state power without being seduced by that moon space, without becoming co-opted, and still soberly prioritizing building power on the ground, autonomous working class power? Those are the questions I want to leave us with today. Doing this podcast, I hope to document, we hope to tell some stories, we hope to get people engaged, and more importantly, I hope we can contribute to further organization so we can be effective and we can change the course of history in Minneapolis. Money, power, land, solidarity. More than that.
We need money, land, solidarity. If you funny, stand very far away from me. We have running plans about as far as they can see to keep